Hi, and welcome to this live reading from Around Midnight by Zarina Macha, and this is presented by Itsy Bitsy Book Bits. Chapter 1. He was watching her from across the room. She stood by the wall, holding her beer and nodding her head to the music. Everyone was talking and laughing amongst themselves in already formed groups. She assumed most were in her age range, 16 to 19. But many of the girls looked like they were in their early 20s with their back-combed hair and stiletto heels. Some of the boys had thick beards and spoke in gruff voices that reminded her of motorcyclists. All her friends back in Copperwood had told her how lucky she was to be moving to London. People spent their whole lives dreaming of the tall sweeping buildings, neon traffic lights, and rows of shops spread from Oxford Circus to Tottenham Court Road. Her parents said it was perfect timing, what with her dad's new job and her mom's vocal tuition classes expanding. And of course, she'd be closer to the London School of Jazz, the school her parents had her set on going since she was 15. They had uprooted her from her old life, and she had flown with it. Now, she stood at this house party thrown by some guy called Dylan. 3 weeks into Bloomstead Secondary School in 6th form, and she'd been taken in by Chang and Carrie, two stylish, talkative girls who said they would help her settle in. They had dressed her up and made her sparkle. Her blonde curly hair fell past her shoulders. Her lips had been painted red and her eyelids purple. A tight black bandeau top and skinny white jeans were set on her body, with silver shoes to match borrowed from Carrie. Her parents wouldn't have normally let her go out showing so much skin, but Chang had said Megan could stay at her house, so her parents were none the wiser. She wished the girls were here now, but Chang had rushed off to greet some friends, and Carrie was cozied up on the sofa with some boy whispering and giggling and letting him feel her up. Megan rubbed her bare white arm with her free hand, grimacing while sipping the bland, frothy beer. She peered around the dark room with its flashing lights and thumping club music, trying to immerse herself in the world of partying youths. This is what being 17 is all about, she tried to convince herself, putting the stained beer bottle to her lips. She turned her head. A guy was standing on his own, eyeing her. His gaze fell to the floor. A warm flush filled her chest and her heart increased its pace. Perhaps it was the beer. She took another sip while looking down, then glancing up. He was still staring, his dark, brooding eyes intense against his pale skin framed in short brown hair. A white shirt and jeans covered his slim, athletic build. Taking another sip, Megan approached him, smiling. "You all right? Great party, isn't it?" She chuckled nervously, tapping her bottle to the Budweiser he held. He blinked at her and mumbled, "Hello," as he stroked the stubble on his chiseled jaw, his back slightly hunched. The warmth in her chest deepened. Definitely the beer. "Do you know how many people here?" "Not really." His voice was low and soft. Empathy coursed through her regarding this shy guy standing on his own. "What's your name?" "Vincent." "Like Vincent van Gogh?" A grin spread across his face. "Most people call me Vince." She giggled again, putting her hand to her lips. "God, I'm tipsy already, but I hardly drink. This is only my first beer, and I have barely half left." She was aware of how animated and silly she sounded. Vince merely smiled and let his gaze fall to the floor again, then back at her. "I don't usually like the taste of beer." He gestured to his glass bottle. "It's just a social thing, you know, blending in and all that." "Yeah, all we can do is try to blend in at these things." Her eyes swept over everyone in the room. "Do you go to Bloomstead?" "No, I went for secondary school but didn't stay on at the 6th form. I'm at a different college." He nodded towards the dancing crowd. "Dylan and I used to be mates back in year 11. "Oh." Megan shifted from foot to foot. "So what's your name?" "Megan. I haven't seen you around here before." She leaned her arm against the wall, blowing air upwards to cool the heat on her skin. "That's because my parents and I moved here from Copperwood. You probably don't know it. It's one of those small random towns outside London." "Yeah, if it's a small random town, I probably haven't heard of it." She twirled a lock of her hair around her fingers while the corners of his mouth turned upwards. "Why did you move here?" It's a long story." She drained the last bit of her beer and flicked some hair out of her face. My dad worked for an M&A company in Luton, but got headhunted by a different company in London that pays more and has a bigger office. My mom teaches private vocal lessons and thought she'd get more students in London. And because I want to apply to the London School of Jazz next year, I guess coming here made sense. He gazed at her intently as she spoke, his expression flat and difficult to read. What instrument do you play? Saxophone. He smiled a cheeky, mischievous smile, mimicking fingers tapping the air. Who are your inspirations? Her face lit up, then she swallowed, flicking her hair again with trembling hands. I love the major jazz musicians. Charlie Parker, obviously, John Coltrane, Dexter Gordon, Sonny Rollins. His gaze made her very aware of her presence, as if she was under a spotlight in the middle of the room. I listen to a lot of Courtney Pine as well. He's one of the more well-known contemporary players. I even met him once. I don't know who any of those people are, he said. Exchanges of mirth passed between the two. But I've heard of Miles Davis. Of course, Miles is the man. Her legs shook up and down. Tutu is one of my favorite albums ever. His cover of Human Nature just makes me want to melt. The Michael Jackson song. I know Michael Jackson. He propped his arm against the wall, relaxing into his body as he spoke to her. It's not every day you meet a girl who plays jazz. Most musical girls I know just want to be the next Taylor Swift or Beyonce. I guess I'm not most girls. She giggled weakly. He raised his eyebrow. How long have you been playing? Since I was 12. My parents love jazz. They took me to a Charlie Parker tribute concert in London. We've been to loads of live music shows. I can't wait to see the Motown live show when it comes to London in a few weeks. He nodded and she bit her lip, looking at the ground. What about you? She took some blonde waves behind her ear. What do you, do? I'm probably nowhere near as interesting as you, he said. I'm studying IT up at Cullington. Oh, okay. I don't know where that is. It's the college down the road for rebellious kids who fuck with the system. Splashes of beer spluttered from her lips, but then her face fell at his blank expression. She cleared her throat. Why do you go there? 'Cause I'm a rebellious kid who fucked with the system. She blinked at him, tapping her foot. What did you do? He grinned and looked away. All sorts of stupid shit. You probably wouldn't want to hear it. No, I'm intrigued now, she said. As he turned his head back to her, there was a light tap on her arm. Megan, there you are. Chang put her arm around Megan's shoulders and some of her black shiny hair sprung up into Megan's mouth. Chang squealed and doubled over, pulling it out. Ew, sorry, I'm kind of drunk. That's okay. Chang's eyes flickered to Vince, then back to Megan. I was going to introduce you to some people. Carrie's getting busy getting off with Ben. They've had this stupid on and off thing going for months. She rolled her slanted eyes and pouted her purple lips. Mind if I borrow her? Sorry if I'm interrupting. No, please go ahead. I was going to head off soon anyway, said Vince. Megan blinked at him. Do you, have Facebook or anything? Yep, I'll add you. He took out his phone. Chang adjusted her tight black dress, tapping her boot heel impatiently. Megan Hollis. The second one, said Megan. He selected it and then flicked his eyes to her. Cool, I've added you. You'll have to accept now, otherwise I'll know if you don't. Amusement filled the air between them like an expanding balloon. Guess I'll see you later then. Vince raised his fingers in a mock salute. Chang pulled Megan away from the noisy room into the corridor. A few girls were giggling and stumbling over one another while a guy thumped their back and cheered them on. That guy you were talking to, his name is Vincent Turner. He's a complete dickhead. Megan blinked and turned her head around. He seemed nice to me. Look, last year this girl who used to go to Bloomstead, Chelsea, she went out with him and the relationship literally ended with him coming to her house and threatening her. She had to call the police. Chang's eyes were wide and dramatic, her voice slurring with vodka. Megan regarded her anxiously, not wanting to question her new friend. Are you sure it was him? Positive. Everyone knows about it. I never even used to talk to Chelsea, and I know about it. She moved up to Enfield after that. Chang shuddered. He's so creepy. I always see him hanging around at parties, either standing on his own or randomly chatting to drunk girls. Best to stay away from him. Hey, girl! Chang clapped her hands and bounced up and down, her expression switching from concerned to cheerful faster than the waft of wine to an alcoholic. Megan turned and saw Carrie giggling at the pair of them, her wild curly hair fanning over tanned shoulders. So I'm thinking, might head back to Ben's house. Carrie winked at the pair of them. Megan smiled weakly, and Chang rolled her eyes, giving Carrie a shove. You never learn, do you? God, she's terrible. Chang shook her head at Megan. Look, whatever you do, be safe. Use a condom. Megan's beer sprayed out of her mouth again while Carrie enveloped her arm over Megan's shoulders. You enjoying yourself so far? Oh, God, Carrie, she was talking to Vince. Carrie slapped her hand over her mouth. Not Chelsea's ex. Chang nodded. Megan stepped away from the two, pulling away from Carrie's blue playsuit. He seemed fine to me. I don't know what you two are stressing about. We know this shit. It's our duty to look after you. I don't need looking after, Megan wanted to say. Instead, she simpered. Sorry, guys. I get it. I guess I'm just a bit tired. Not really used to all this after all. Oh, she'll learn. Chang tugged at Carrie's playsuit straps. So he's going to take this all off then. Are you and Ben really going to, Megan blinked at the two. They clapped their hands together, guffawing like horses, and then Chang sighed fondly. She thought we were joking. Oh, bless. We've shagged loads of times, just not recently. Mind you, he's so gone he probably won't be able to get it up, Carrie groaned. Fucking man can't do jack shit when they're pissed. What about you? Megan turned to Chang. Have you, done sexual stuff with guys? Chang and Carrie looked at one another and erupted into hysteria again. Megan's high cheekbones flushed pink. I haven't had full sex yet, but I've done other stuff, obviously. I'd rather wait to shag a guy I really care about, Chang ran her hand through her shiny black hair. Megan ached to look like Chang, sleek and refined or wild and carefree like Carrie. Instead, she resembled an innocent cherub, a soft English rose who looked about 14. How far have you gone with the guy? Chang blinked expectantly at Megan, the corners of her mouth tilting as if she already knew the answer. Megan ogled the floor. I mean, nothing besides kissing and making out. You will do, don't worry, babe. Carrie patted her cheek. God, you're so pretty. Maybe I should dye my hair blonde. Long as it isn't with a guy like Vince, you'll be fine. Chang kissed Megan's cheek, then squealed. Megan forced a chuckle, although the insides of her stomach were clenched. Chapter 2. Megan woke up to 2 missed calls and a text message from her mom asking how she was and how the party had been. She stifled a groan and scratched her hair, all rumpled and strewn over the bedclothes. Chang had lent her a black t-shirt with the words Queen of the Frickin' Universe and a busty cartoon lady holding a laser while standing on an image of a globe. Fortunately, she hadn't drank too much and had managed to haul Chang into an Uber back to her place, which had only been a 15-minute drive away. Chang had yelped gratitude as Megan held her hair back and listened to her birth bile into the toilet bowl. Soon after, Chang had stumbled down the corridor, loudly humming songs from Dirty Dancing before collapsing into bed and leaving Megan to tuck her in. She wondered what her parents would say or do if she came home pissed at 2 o'clock in the morning. That was what girls were meant to do at her age. None of her friends back in Copperwood had been in the party crowd. They had all been geeky outsiders who hung around in the background. They made their own fun, and Megan tried to join in, laughing at their jokes and imitating their uniformed language. She suddenly ached for Robin, her best friend, who she hadn't spoken to in over a week. Robin was busy shitting herself over her UCAS application. Megan rolled onto her back, sighing and staring up at the wall. She imagined what it would be like to leave her body and drift up through the bricks and stone, holding Zhang's home up and out into the daylight, her arms swimming through the air. She liked to imagine this when she played her saxophone, running the blues scale from A to G sharp and letting the notes carry her into the wind. She would land on a stage filled with people applauding as she stood among some of the best jazz musicians in the country, dancing like the greats before her. Imagine witnessing the magic of 1920s New Orleans firsthand, she had said to her mother once, prancing around their living room while her mum tidied away sheet music from a lesson. Ah, Mother, think of when music brought black and white Americans together. Sir Duke and Satchmo and Jelly Roll Morton harmonizing against the backdrop of racial segregation. Her mom had smiled. It certainly was a great time in musical history. It didn't matter if a 30-year-old black man from 20th century America or a 17-year-old white girl from 21st century Britain wanted to play. Megan's eyes had gleamed, picturing the groove that swung through them all. None of her friends liked the jazz greats. They preferred Ed Sheeran and Adele. Even Robin lightly teased her for listening to jazz, calling it boring. Where's the singing, Maggie? Robin had yawned within a minute of the building brass entourage. It just sounds like a crazy bunch of noise. I don't understand it. You're not supposed to understand it, Megan urged, tapping her fingers. You're supposed to feel it. Jazz is about getting underneath your skin and filling up the soul. Boring. This is what my mom listens to. Come on, let's listen to The Weeknd's new album on Spotify. That's way more fun.